The following program does not necessarily reflect the opinions and viewpoints of the staff and management of this station.
Welcome to the wonderful world of seniors, the best of all worlds. You now have the time, resources, and ability to enjoy what you have worked for all your life. So let's explore the many possibilities available to seniors on Senior World Radio. Senior World Radio is your source for senior citizens-related topics, information, and entertainment. Now, here is your host of Senior World Radio, Glenn Howard.
A few days ago, we were down in the Moore Community Center. Went down and had lunch with a wonderful bunch of people down there. They started telling me about a gentleman by the name of Clyde Christian, who is an old retired military guy. In fact, he spent 35 years teaching school. Of course, was back in World War II and had become quite a storyteller. So I got his name and phone number and gave him a call and went out to his house to visit with him. And a most charming gentleman, 94 years, in fact, going on 95 years of age, and asked him questions and turned on a recorder. And he was such a delightful guy, I just wanted to introduce you to him and give you a chance to hear a little bit about Clyde Christian.
Clyde, what got you to telling your story? I understand some young ladies convinced you to start telling your stories.
I was over at church, and they came to a bunch of young adults, I guess this is the way to say it, came to me and asked me if I'd tell them if I was in the war. And I said, yeah, I was in the war. And I said I was in World War II. And they said, would you tell us a few stories? And I said, I have been 70 years forgetting it. I'll have to have some time to think it up. Well, I thought of one or two stories, and they had caused me to think of others. And I just kept on until I got a pretty fair bunch of them that I think are worthy of telling.
First of all, I want to congratulate you on 94 years. I understand you're coming up on your 95th birthday in a few days.
Less than 80 days away. November 30th.
November the 30th. You'll be 95 years old.
Right.
What do you attribute your secret of living 95 years to?
Those Germans didn't get me. I went around the whole time I was over there with a knotted stomach like I'd been eating green apples.
Uh-huh.
And after I finished my missions, was told to tell some of the stories that had happened to me. When I started telling them, each time I'd tell them, it would get a little bit easier to do, and pretty soon I was feeling fine. At the end of July, they told us that the ground crew was going to get on board and sail to England and stock up the field and all, and the ones that flew were going to Massachusetts and spend the month, and then they'd fly over there. And so during that month of August, it was about 3 or 4 days before we got our plane, and we practiced on our new plane then from the time we got it ready to fly. But we had to get it painted like we wanted it, and I had to change all 4 engines to one that we had known that were just fresh from the factory. New engines, in other words. And we did that in about 2 or 3 days there, and then we started flying. And there's 2 or 3 things happened before we went to England that I'd like to tell you about.
Okay.
One of them, we went down the coast to the southwest, and the first thing you knew, we all recognized that we had left Massachusetts and were entering New York State. And pretty soon, he really shot the gas to it, and and turned that plane due east, and we flew over New York City from the west side to the east side. And when we got just a little over halfway, the town sent up their escort, but we were more than halfway across, so they took us the rest of the way. That next morning, our commander had a little warning in his hand book for the day that no B-17s from his field would be flying over New York City. I was out on the line working that morning, and I heard somebody laugh, and I thought, well, I've heard that laugh before. And I looked, sure enough, it was. I should have known who it was from the very start, but it was my pilot. He was laughing and said, I'll have to think up something else.
So he was the one that had done it, huh?
Yeah, and so the next day, nothing happened. 2 days from then, it was getting mighty close to the last day of August, and so we went on another trip this time, and he got over a river in western New York, and he went upstream, and it wasn't any time till we could see the falls. So it was Niagara Falls, and he was flying so low over it that we were seeing the propellers were knocking water all over our plane, but we could see the falls and everything, and the boats were trying to get out of our way, and skiers were running from us, and people wading and swimming and everything like that were trying to get out of the way. But they all got wet with our plane going right on up through there. And
flying a bomber over Niagara Falls.
And so when we got over it, we got another little note the next day saying, no B-17s from this field will fly over Niagara or Niagara Falls, Niagara River or Niagara Falls. And so then
time for you to get on to England, wasn't it?
It was time for us to go.
Okay, let's get on into the actual fighting. You were one of the first people actually to drop bombs in Germany, were you not?
Yeah, but that wasn't for a long time. We went to France many times, and we lost 4% down there. And we really learned how to fight. And when we started to Germany, I went to the pilot. I had to sign the paper of who all was on the plane, and I told him there wasn't a bombardier. And I was supposed to be the top turret gunner. And he said he wanted me to take out long enough to drop the bombs. And so I went up there to drop the bombs. And what one that has to do is open the bomb bay doors. And then when they get over the target just right, they press a button and then the bombs go. Well, I opened the bomb bay doors at the right time, and I got my finger over the button, fairly close to the button, and I think I was resting my fingers on the table, just over the table, and a great big blast went off outside. I jumped, and before I settled down, my finger had reached across the bomb site, and there went the bombs. I couldn't prevent it then. They were gone, boy. And I looked, and there was nobody else's bombs going down, just mine. And about 2 minutes later, or maybe not that long, they were going from everybody's, but mine were first. And that's the first time I'd heard them say anything about who was first. If we wiped the target out completely, that was what we looked out for. Nobody wanted to be first. Nobody cared anything about being second or anything that way. We wanted to wipe that target out. And that's the first time I'd heard anybody say it. But those generals were all on that lead plane that I was having to watch to do what they did. And they wanted to be first. And so that's the first time we heard it mentioned. And my pilot heard him talking. And he said, when did they change it? We always went with wiping the target out completely. And they never did say a word to me. And I guess he shut them up with that statement.
Somebody told me that you also one time had some experience in the Arctic area. You were up there.
We'd go up into the Arctic area and come back down. And incidentally, if you spilled any water up there from your mouth to the floor, it would be ice by the time it hit the floor of the plane. It was that cold. I never saw it. I never saw the Arctic Ocean. That wasn't any time that I had to fly over it, that it wasn't a minus 55 or colder. And I've seen it 70 and 75 below zero. And it really got cold. And I'd been taking my gloves off when I was going to France. And when we went to that and I took my gloves off, I saw I'd made a mistake, but I couldn't get them back on quickly enough. Just that quick time, my hands froze, and they turned albino when they quit hurting. And just as white as they could be, the skin was. And I had it white that way the rest of the war. And when I finished my 25th mission, they were still white.
Clyde, we got to take a break for just a few moments. We're going to be coming right back. I'm Glenn Howard, Senior World Radio, visiting with Clyde Christian, World War II veteran, 95 years of age. You're going to want to hear the rest of his story. We'll be right back.
You're nobody till somebody loves you.
Have you ever had a problem, but it seemed like there was no one who could help? You spent hours calling around, being referred from one place to the next. Well, not anymore. I want to tell you about a free and easy-to-use service in Oklahoma. 211 is a simple 3-digit phone number to get help or to give help when you don't know where to turn. Dialing 211 only takes a minute, and you are connected with a caring Oklahoman who will help you find the assistance you've been looking for. With access to over 13,000 programs, Heartline 211 can connect you to local resources for many different needs, including health care, food, counseling, rent assistance, disability assistance, job services, and much more. 211 is a service of Heartline, a United Way partner agency. 211, the right first call to get help or give help 24 hours a day.
Hi, my name's Jason Ledlow, president of UT Phone, the ultimate telephone service. We're proud to be a sponsor of Senior World Radio with Glenn Howard. UT Phone is dedicated to providing Oklahomans affordable telephone service all across our great state. We have Lifeline home phone service starting at just $1.95. That's right, just $1.95, and most of Oklahoma's seniors qualify for this reduced home phone service. They get to keep their old home phone number, and it even includes long distance. Another great feature of UT Phone's customers really like is that it includes repair service. That's right, any repairs at no additional charge. With many telephone services charging $40 to $50 per month, it makes sense to switch your service to UT Phone. This service is a federal program that is provided through the Universal Service Fund. There is only one per household, so make it UT Phone's home phone service for $1.95. Give us a call at 800-996-0098. Again, call 800-996-0098.
I've made up my mind.
Welcome back to Senior World Radio. I'm Glenn Howard, visiting today with Clyde Christian, a World War II veteran, 95 years of age, who has become quite a storyteller. Clyde, I understand there was one instance in which you almost lost your life during the war. Tell me about that.
One time we went through a rain cloud, and my gun got damp, and it was wet enough that it froze with a solid sheet of ice. Well, I tried with my hands to twist that ice off of it and get it to where I could work, and I couldn't do it. I had a little pair of pliers. They were little tiny things, about 3 or 3.5 inch broad mouth pliers, and I took them and twisted ice with the pliers, and boy, that ice began breaking off. And I got my gun apart and took paper and sacks and things and rubbed them real hard, and I got enough ice off that they'd work again. And as soon as we got out of the cloud, I fired them a little bit, and that melted all the ice on them to where they'd work. And so going back to my pliers, as I was reaching for them, I went down with a finger and a thumb and a little side pocket on the side of my leg, just above my knee, and got them out and then dropped them. And they went all the way to the floor of the plane. Well, I stepped off of the turret and down on the floor and squatted down, and I mean, I was having to reach to the floor with my hand and feel around and find my pliers. And when I found them, about that time I heard a blast, and that blast broke my headrest on that turret into small pieces, and it all fell. That's where I was resting my head just a few minutes ago. And I think that gentleman upstairs was taking care of me by having me fold up down on that floor at that time. I didn't get a scratch, but I think it would have.
So the good Lord was taking care of you.
Yeah, that's my belief. I don't know whether I'm right or not, but I know something caused me to fold up down there, and I was out of the way of that shell.
Clyde, I understand there was a time when you actually had a chance to meet royalty over there, was there not?
As soon as we ate our supper, there's always a bunch of boys that wish they had a beer. And we had a bicycle issued to each one of us. And so a bunch of us would jump on those bicycles and ride. I didn't drink, but you can imagine they'd go after supper time, and we couldn't even smoke a cigarette, no light at all, and no flashlight or anything like that. And we hadn't gone very far till we saw barracks on the side of the road. And as we got closer to it, the girls just came pouring out of that. They were the British wafts. You know, we had the wax over here, and they had the wafts over there. Whacked and wafts. And so they came pouring out, and a bunch of them came to the fence where we'd be passing on the other side of the fence, and they stopped us and were talking to us. And they said, if you guys will put your bicycles in here, well, we'll go walking with you. And so we put our bicycles in their fenced-in yard, and about that time, they were just getting ready to take off with us, and about that time, there's one girl walked out of the barracks by herself. And they said, hey, we'd like for her to go with us. One of you guys go ask her to go with us. You, and pointed at me. And so I went over and I said, the girls would like for you to go with our group and walk with us. I said, they didn't tell me your name or anything, but my name is Clyde. And she said, well, they all call me Margaret. And just as calm as everything. And so I kind of glanced and looked her over, and I'd seen Margaret, the princess, pictured in the London paper. Well, you know how the cameras for the paper does one once in a while. It didn't look pretty at all. And this girl was a dream. Boy, I thought, well, it couldn't be the same girl. And so I didn't even ask her. I just went talking to her and walked off there, and she was laughing like everything and having fun and asking me what I'd be doing if I wasn't over there in that war. And I said, I don't know. I said, I dearly love to farm. I said, I don't know, I've been on a farm most of my life, and I also like to observe some children learning something that they haven't known up until now. And I said, I don't know whether I want to be a school teacher or a farmer. And she said, if you were on the farm, what kind of power would you use to pull your plow? And I said, well, we had horses and we had mules, and some of my neighbors had tractors, but we didn't have one at this time. And so, see, this was 1941, and I mean 42 that we got over there. And so it was in 42 probably. And so I had so many missions there to go on before that. And so I was just answering her question. She said, do you have electricity? And I said, oh, yeah, we had electricity. And I said, we had several things that were electric. And about that time, one of the girls walked over to her and said, Princess, could I get you something? And it turned out to be the princess.
How about that?
And she was walking and talking with me. And when she got back, her words were, I've walked several times, and I've never in my life had as good a visit and as much fun as I've had this evening. And I think she'd have gone with me if I'd asked her, but I had so many missions in front of me, I thought, well, I don't know whether I'd be here tomorrow or not, so I didn't ask her.
So that was Princess Margaret?
Yeah.
Who is now the Queen?
No. She's dead. That's her sister that is the Queen.
I see. How about that? That's an interesting story, Clyde.
To me it is.
Yes, it is.
I think it's one of the, I don't know, there's just something about the group that are king, queen, and princess and prince and all that kind of sucks us all in, I think.
It sure does.
Clyde, I understand when you finally did come back to the States, they assigned you out to the West Coast, and you had some hard duty out there, did you not?
I had about 10 days with my parents, and then I had to get to California. And when I got to California for reassignment for gunnery school, I got to see a bunch of good stage shows with, like Dinah Shore was the one that really struck my mind. And since...
A beautiful woman.
Well, besides that, she made it through the show, and she had a side door to the stage, and she put every person that was an officer, every person that was in the service is what I'm trying to say, on the stage with her. And regardless of what rank they were, they went on the stage with her. All the time of her program, I was almost as close to her as I am to you. I could have reached out and touched her if I'd have tried at any time. And I thought that was really something to have us all up there with her right on the stage to where everything she did was well seen by us.
Her television show was a remarkable show.
And I learned after she had done that she had 10 college degrees.
Really?
Yeah. And so I've been quite proud of the fact that I got to see Dinah Shore.
Well, I'm Glenn Howard, Senior World Radio. That was all the time I had to spend with Clyde Christian. What a tremendous guy. I just wish we had more time to let him tell you about his growing up in Maud, Oklahoma, his coming back from the military, completing his degree and spending 35 years teaching. And, of course, as an old farmer, you would have enjoyed hearing his stories about his impression of British farming. He enjoyed so much being able to see the European countryside and all the British farms and the way they do things, but time simply did not allow. But listen, if you've got a friend or somebody that you know that you think would make a very interesting story to share with our listeners, give me a call. My phone number is 877-875-0990. You can call me any place in the state. It's a toll-free number. Again, that number is 877-875-0990. Tell me about somebody that you think would have an interesting story that you'd like to share or they'd like to share. Let me go out, sit down with them, and visit with them a little bit, and I can either bring them in here to the studio where we can record their program, or I've got the equipment. We can actually go out to their home, sit down with them, record their stories, bring it in, and play it over Senior World Radio, and let everybody enjoy the stories of these incredible seniors. Anyway, time's up. I got to go. Thanks so much for being with me. We're going to be back again this same time next week. Until then, be kind to everybody you know, especially yourself. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.
I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I've found ever since you've been around. Your love's put me at the top of the world.